Hey guys, and welcome to the Batcave. Today we're going to try something a little bit different. I'm just going to sit down and talk to the camera, completely unscripted, and give my thoughts on the upcoming The Batman movie. Now, I'm doing this by myself, so I don't have a cameraman. I can't tell if I'm in focus. I can't tell if the microphone's in shot. So I'm just going to I'm going to wing it. I apologize if it's poor quality, but it is what it is. Now, because this channel is only, well, less than 2 weeks old at the point of recording this video, the trailer has been out for a while. Especially the first one, right? It came out in 2020, and there has been, I think, 2 or 3 trailers since then, and I haven't had a chance to really give my thoughts on them because the channel is so new. So I thought the best thing to do would be to sit down casually and just discuss all of the key things from the trailers. Now, first things first, let's get the obvious out of the way. What do I think of the trailer in general? Nothing specific. What do I think of the overall appeal of the movie? Now, first of all, from a filmmaking perspective, I am actually a professional filmmaker. Straight away, whoever made the trailer, bravo. Making trailers is a profession and a career in itself. I don't think an average film editor, an average documentary or music video editor, whatever, could make a real Hollywood standard trailer. It's something different about doing it, about knowing what to reveal, when to reveal it, cutting it to the music, not cutting it to the music, using the music in such a way that it builds tension and excitement. It's a real skill. It's a very, very hard thing to do that you can't really appreciate until you've tried it yourself. Having said that, every single trailer that has been released so far for the Batman has been absolutely phenomenal and has brought something a little different each time. The suspense with the character of the Riddler has been fantastic, and of course I will talk about that in far greater detail a little bit later on, but the way they've withheld certain things about him, be it his look, giving us little pieces of his dialogue to drive the trailer along, has been, well, for one, very, very creepy, but also it's built suspense in such a way that has got me excited. So it's kind of done lots of jobs all at once. And I think that is a very, very, very difficult thing to do. Now, not just talking specifically about how the trailer is edited, but also how the film itself is shot. The branding for the marketing has been very, very red and black, which I'm a huge fan of. It's been very different. It's a nice change to the general blues and oranges that we've been getting in marketing over the last few years, especially from Disney. This simple red and black has been a fresh take on marketing for a superhero movie, and I'm a big fan. Having said that, you look at the trailer, it's got quite an orangey vibe. Yes, there is a lot of play with the red. There's a bird's eye shot in particular of a flooded Gotham, I'm guessing. That is just pure red from the flare, and then the shot of Batman with the red flare light on his cowl looks absolutely stunning. But the majority of the trailer does have an orange tinge to it, using sunlight and fire, and again, I'm into it. Apart from the oranges, it's very, very dull, but in a good way, in a very aesthetically pleasing, dark, gritty, grimy Gotham sort of way. We have the greys and the blacks contrasted with the oranges, and it's kind of, to me at least, like some kind of symbolism, like the light, the hope that is Batman in a city of pure darkness. So overall, the vibe of the story is very serial killer-esque. They're going more for I've compared the Riddler to the Zodiac Killer in the past, and I think many others have as well, but it's that Zodiac Killer 7 type feel, if you know what I mean. So it's more of a detective mystery than it is an action superhero movie. It's clear to see that there is going to be a lot of action in it, but I'm very glad that we're finally getting a detective take on Batman. Previous adaptations, let's start with Keaton, has been very dark. Not so much a play on the detective side of Batman, more just pure crime fighting Batman, but very, very, very dark and gritty. Almost too dark when it got to Batman Returns. Then they went the complete flip side of that with the Joel Schumacher movies, with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. They were almost too cartoony, too comic booky. Almost didn't take the character of Batman serious enough. I mean, infamously, they gave him nipples on the Batsuit, which, again, it didn't really bother me, but it's hard to take a character serious when his nipples are pointing at you. Let's be honest. Then we went uber realistic with the Nolan trilogy, which was fantastic, but it's hard to turn a comic book character and take a lot of what makes him Batman into a world where everything is trying to be as realistic and as believable as possible. There has to be an element of suspending disbelief, understanding that yes, this is a comic book character. So although I absolutely love the Nolan trilogy, it's hard to get everything that is Batman across in such a realistic setting, if that makes sense. Then they went, obviously, to Batfleck. Now, Ben Affleck, I have said before, whether you agree or not, that he is the best live-action Batman. Kevin Conroy is the best Batman. Ben Affleck is the best live-action Batman. He was a great Bruce Wayne. He was believable as this billionaire with a grudge who was turning his anger into justice to prevent what happened to him happening to others. Not only that, but he was big, intimidating, and very believable as this pissed-off, brute force vigilante. And I loved it. Yes, he took it a step too far and was essentially a murderer, which is not Batman, but that's a topic for another day. This is finally, at least from what I can tell from the trailers, a mix of all these things. It's not taking itself so seriously that we can't have those comic book elements in it, but it is set in a real world. It's turned a supervillain into a serial killer, which, let's be honest, that's what they would be in real life. We wouldn't go, oh, that's a supervillain. We'd say, no, there's a serial killer that's killing multiple people, he's lost his mind, and that's the route they're going with the Riddler. And I, for one, am very, very happy with that. I think it's the route that needs to be taken to allow Batman to take on this detective role, solve the mystery. And for a detective story, which villain is the best to give Batman that story? The Riddler. It's all about mystery. It's all about solving the puzzle, solving the case. And that's absolutely ideal. So, long story short, I'm very happy with the route this movie is taking. I think it's taken the right approach to a Batman story for this day and age. Okay, I've just gone back and watched what I just recorded and realised the microphone was covering my face a bit, so I've adjusted my chair, and I hope that this is enough to fix that poor framing, and you'll forgive the start of the video after my earlier explanation. Also, I want to apologise if you can hear music in the background. I am filming this in my gym, and there are classes on downstairs as I'm trying to do this, so I can't really tell them to go and turn the music off. Hopefully, this room is soundproof enough? I don't think it is. Anyway, let's continue. This may never even make it to YouTube. Next, I want to talk about the cast. Now, let's go back to when the cast was announced. Robert Pattinson was announced as the replacement for Ben Affleck when he pulled out of this film. I can't lie, I was so angry that they picked the Twilight guy as Batman. Batman means a lot to me. He's a character that I have loved since I can remember. And I've always hated Twilight, and I was not happy. Having said that, I was a narrow-minded fool, and I hadn't watched anything else with Robert Pattinson in. I have since watched many of his movies, and the guy is actually a very, very talented and committed actor. So, I decided to, just forget about my earlier misconceptions about Robert and give him a chance. And then, of course, the trailer was released and he blew my expectations away. I was truly, truly happy with the route they had gone, as we've just talked about. Overall, I'm excited. I'm happy with the casting. The other thing I want to talk about is comparing that to when they first announced Ben Affleck as Batman. I was equally as annoyed. I was one of those people that was like, cancel the Snyderverse. What are they doing? They've cast Ben Affleck. Have they not seen Daredevil? I was one of those guys. And all I want to say is, Ben, I am truly sorry. Especially after reading the article on how hurt he was by the fan backlash of his casting announcement. I felt terrible reading that even 5-6 years later, whatever it's been. Ben was a fantastic Batman and is a fantastic actor, so I think it's safe to say that we should all give Robert Pattinson the same chance that Ben Affleck didn't get, actually. So, yeah, I'm sure he's going to be good. The rest of the cats, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman looks absolutely phenomenal, and I would say the best Catwoman we've had since Michelle Pfeiffer. Obviously, Halle Berry should not really be talked about, and Anne Hathaway in The Dark Knight Rises, she had her pros, but I just didn't really get much from the Bruce and Selina relationship. It just didn't really vibe for me. It wasn't really a natural fit. Whereas even from the trailer, you can tell that Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz have chemistry, and they have that back and forth cat and bat, Selina and Bruce relationship that us comic book readers and fans of Batman in general have come to know and love, and I think that is something that has to take priority when Catwoman is involved in a Batman story. So very happy with that. Paul Dano as the Riddler. Now, the only film I know Paul Dano from is Prisoners, which is an absolutely phenomenal film starring Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's got a very, very creepy vibe, and he plays a fairly creepy character in that too. So just taking what I know of him from that, I think with the vibe they're going with this serial killer, Zodiac killer type thing, I think he is probably the ideal casting for that style Riddler. So again, happy with that. I've got no doubts about how they're going to go with that. The only thing I want to talk about the Riddler in particular from the trailers we've had so far is, and again I touched on this earlier, they're clearly withholding something from us. In the DC Fandom trailer we got in October, there's a few shots where Bruce is the other side of a glass window, like a visiting area in a prison, I guess, where he elbows the screen. You know the scene. It might be playing down here somewhere, who knows. But you kind of get a slight hint at the Riddler's reflection in that, and everything else we see of him is behind the head or in this weird mask thing. We don't really get a clear front-on shot of the Riddler, of Edward Nashton, as he goes by in this film. There was one in the following trailer where he sat at the bar in like a cafe or bar or something, and he gets arrested. We see a little bit more of him in that, but again, it's not a complete clear front-on shot, and I am wondering why that is. Is it purely just to keep the mystery alive? Is it something bigger? Is there something on his face? Is some part of him disfigured? Speaking of being disfigured, that's something I also want to touch on. It almost seems to be some kind of theme with characters in this movie. Now, what I mean by that is if you go back and look at the other characters, the big characters, let's start with Alfred. Alfred has a very clear scar around his eye, and this is actually only something I picked up on when rewatching the trailers before doing this video today. Alfred has a scar around his eye. Penguin is clearly quite deeply misfigured in the face as well, so maybe there's something going on there. I don't know if there's some kind of connection. I don't know. This is just spitballing on the fly. But there could be a reason why they're withholding showing us Edward's face, and maybe it's disfigurement. Who knows? I'm just theorizing, just speculating. Who else we got? Okay, speaking of the Penguin, let's talk about Colin Farrell as the Penguin. First of all, cast our minds back to when, again, he was announced as Oswald Cobblepot. I don't think there was a single person out there that went, yeah, cool, perfect casting. If you tell me you are one of those people that was your thought, you are lying. None of us could see Colin Farrell as the kingpin of crime in Gotham, as the Penguin. It doesn't fit. But then we get reminded of the magic of movie making, of filmmaking, of cinema, and what can be done in today's technology, today's makeup capabilities. It's just insane. He looks like a completely different person. I feel you really have to not only know that that's Colin Farrell under those prosthetics, under that makeup, but you still have to look for it. Even if I said to you, that's Colin Farrell, you'd be like, no, really? Like, it's not just one of those things where he looks a bit different. He looks completely changed, completely unrecognizable, completely transformed into the Penguin. Not only that, but his facial expressions, his voice, his dialogue sounds completely different. And he's really taken on that role as like this New York Italian-American mafia boss, which I absolutely love that version of the Penguin. So again, very happy with how they've gone with that character. Next, I want to talk about Andy Serkis as Alfred. Now, Alfred Pennyworth he's been a variety of different things to Bruce over the years. He is, of course, his loyal butler, his father figure, his guardian, his helper, his advisor. In some versions, he's been his bodyguard and his protector. He is everything that he needs to be to Bruce. Whatever Bruce needs, that's what Alfred is. Now, there's a case to be made for the earlier versions of Alfred like we saw in the Burton and Schumacher films. Just a simple, I don't want to say frail, but yeah, frail butler to Bruce. That's all he is. He's a father figure, he's a butler, and he just kind of does what Bruce tells him to do. Yes, he still guides him and advises him and gives him the guidance that he needs. Not to go too far, I guess. He is that sort of figure in Bruce's life in those. Same as Michael Caine. Very similar. Kind of just helps Bruce, tells him what he needs to hear when he needs to hear it. Then we've got the Jeremy Irons version that we got in the Snyderverse, who's a bit more hands-on. He's very helpful with building, repairing Bruce's technology, his cars and Batwings and all these sort of things. We see him in Batman vs Superman testing the voice modulator, for example. So that's a lot more hands-on. Now, it's very clear that this version of Bruce is a bit more... Well, for one, he looks a bit more physical. Andy Serkis looks like he's bulked up a little bit, and he just seems more intimidating. Now, I wonder if he's coming across more as Bruce's bodyguard in this, because we do know this is early on in Bruce's career, right? He's only in his second year as a vigilante, as Batman. So there's a good chance that Alfred is younger, and through Bruce's teen years and early adolescence, Alfred was a bodyguard, a protector of young billionaire Master Wayne. I like this. Now, if you have read the interview with Matt Reeves, I think it was, in Empire magazine last month, you'll also know that this Alfred has a slightly strained relationship with Bruce. He doesn't actually agree with what he's doing. He thinks he's just kind of lost the plot. But at the end of the day, his job is to help and serve Bruce Wayne. So he's going along with it, but they don't get on. He is far from agreeing and far from liking what Bruce is doing. So I'm really interested to see this different take on their relationship. I think it even goes as far as saying, you know, if they pass each other in the corridor in Wayne Manor, it's a bit icy, you know, they don't even stop and chat. It's just like, Master Bruce, Alfred, and that's it. A part of me feels a little bit sad about that. I've always loved the relationship between Alfred and Bruce and their sort of father-son bond. But this is a fresh take, and I'm all for trying new things in another Batman reboot. So that's something, again, I'm very looking forward to seeing, and I'm hoping that one of the underlying story arcs in the movie is seeing Bruce and Alfred's relationship sort of rebuild, and seeing Alfred's appreciation for Bruce building, his respect, his understanding for what Bruce is trying to do, sort of come to the surface. I'm hoping that's a big part of the story. We also see in the most recent trailer, we see Bruce saying something on the lines of, "You lied to me this whole time, Alfred," and Alfred looks down, he's very sad, and, oh, what have I done? So I'm interested to see what that's all about. Is there some kind of connection between Alfred and Edward Nashton, the Riddler? Again, this is another one of those things that I'm looking forward to seeing play out. Moving on, another thing I want to talk about. I've got my my Bat book here, by the way, with some notes, some little bullet points of things I want to get through in this discussion. And one of the most important things, which again, I'm very late to the table doing this because of the channel being so new, but I want to get my thoughts across on the Batsuit. When the Batsuit images were first leaked, I think the first ones that came out were without the cape, which again, it's Batman, a cape is a big part of the overall look. However, the overall chest plate, the armor, the shoulder pads, the gauntlets, the like ab guard thing, the armor in general, I was a big fan of. The cowl, when I first saw it, I was like, oh good god, what is that? I was not a fan of the cowl. The other thing I was not a fan of was the trousers. They were just like combat trousers, I guess. Not quite sure what you'd call them, just combats. With like a holster and some accessories on, and then of course these big boots. Overall, for the look, it works, but especially when looking at the trailer that came out in October, when Bruce is just showered with bullets in that corridor and they're all just kind of bouncing off him, I feel like it's a bit silly to have such good protective armor on your upper body and then just be wearing trousers on your lower half. Now that I've said this, I feel like I need to go back and check the trailer to see if bullets actually hit his legs, but I'm assuming not only does he have a big unprotected chin, I mean if I was a bad guy, that's what I'd be aiming for. The cowl's bulletproof, the armor's bulletproof, I'd be aiming for the chin. I can see the skin, I know bullets aren't bouncing off that, but yeah, overall the suit, it looks cool, it looks practical, and that's the main thing for me. Again, taking the side of Nolan and trying to make things fit into reality, but also taking those comic book aspects. I think this suit is a good blend of both. Overall, the cowl has grown on me. I like the fact that you can kind of see that it has been handmade by Bruce, and maybe Alfred, we're not sure yet. But it was the fitting that I didn't like at first, but again, the more images we're getting given to us, the more footage we've seen, the better I think it looks. The cape is a nice length and a nice fit. And of course, the bat symbol on the suit, the rumours were, and I think this was confirmed, I'm not sure, but that metal bat symbol across the chest is apparently parts of the gun that was used to kill his parents. If that's true, that is so badass. So I'm hoping that is actually part of the suit, because that's something we've not seen before, and again, like I said earlier, fresh take, I'm all for. So overall, Batsuit, I'm a fan. Having said that, I have just ordered my own movie screen accurate Batsuit, which you'll be seeing a lot of on this channel, I'm sure. And I could have gone for a Pattinson version, but I went for the Batfleck one. I'm a sucker for the black and grey Batman, and if you're talking intimidating, that's the peak of intimidation when it comes to Batman. So yeah, maybe once we've seen the full film, I will be all about getting myself a Pattinson suit, and I'm not gonna lie, I probably will. It's gonna happen. But for now, I'm still all about the Dawn of Justice Batman costume. That's my favourite so far. Moving on, speaking of Bat stuff, let's talk about the Batmobile. I'm not a massive car guy. A lot of my friends are like super into cars. That's not me. Having said that, Batmobiles are Batmobiles, and there's nothing cooler. The only thing as cool as a Batmobile is James Bond's original Aston Martin DB5. That's the only thing as cool as a Batmobile. I couldn't really give you an order of my favourite past Batmobiles. I like the 60s one, the Adam West one. I actually like the Batman Forever one, don't hate me. I like the Keaton one. The Tumbler was super cool. Affleck's was super cool. There's not been a bad Batmobile. Unless you talk maybe the 40s one, which was basically like a Cadillac or something, right? Let's ignore that one. This one is, from what I can tell, just some kind of American muscle car with some pretty heavy self-modifications, I would assume. Again, Bruce is still early in his career, so he's not some kind of technical expert that can just splash out money with Lucius Fox and whatnot to get the absolute peak of technology. So it looks like he's probably just maybe done some YouTube video searches on how to mod cars and just upgraded the Batmobile in the best way he can. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I do like my muscle cars. Again, I'm not a car guy, so I'm not going to be telling you what age or decade this car is from. I don't even know what car it is. All I know is it's an American-style muscle car. Don't judge me. It just looks cool, and that's good enough for me. Moving on. I wasn't sure whether to talk about it or not, because it's a topic of great debate amongst Batman fans, especially in recent years with Batfleck. And debatably, this could be a big topic for another video, but I figured I'd talk about it now, just while we're on the topic of the Batman. Does this version of the Batman kill? Something that's not really spoken about very often is Keaton's Batman is very clearly a murderer. You just watch the 1989 Batman with Jack Nicholson. I feel like he kills quite a lot of people. He racks up quite the body count. But it doesn't really get talked about too much. Obviously then we had the Joel Schumacher ones, which were very family friendly, a lot more comic booky, and they were obviously not going to be showing Batman murder people in those. And then we moved on to the Nolan trilogy, which tried to keep Batman very realistic. Again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that really drove home the idea of Batman having one rule that he does not break, which became parodied quite a lot. If you watch like the Badman College Humor skits, they talk about that a lot. He has one rule: he doesn't kill. I feel like that's something all Batman fans now know, thanks to The Dark Knight. Then we moved into Batfleck and the Snyderverse version of Batman, which dude just straight up shoots guns and does whatever is necessary to rid the world of bad guys. At first, I absolutely hated this. I was like, that's not Batman, you know, he doesn't kill, what are they doing? But then when you think about it, this version of Bruce Wayne that we get in the Snyderverse is a beaten down, broken, fed up Batman that's coming towards the end of his vigilante career. He's getting older, he's been doing it for over 20 years, and a few of the lines of dialogue within the movie really hint at how he feels. There's something along the lines of, you know, you take one criminal down and another one pops up in its place. You know, they're like weeds. That sort of thing. Like, imagine how discouraging and demotivating that is. You know, I've just spent all these years bringing down these criminals and they just keep popping back up. I can't do this forever. Just take them off the table. They keep escaping from Arkham. How many times did he have to bring down the Joker in that universe? I'm guessing, you know? So you can kind of understand the reasoning behind it. Not only that, we know that this was a Bruce that was post Jason Todd, if we look at the Batsuit in the Batcave. So we know that he's gone through some stuff that's pushed him over the edge. So I kind of get that he's a killer in that. He's not killing innocents, you know, he's being very careful. He's killing the people, I don't want to say deserving of it, but you get what I mean. Chances are, when he was at the stage that Christian Bale's Batman was in his career, Ben Affleck's Batman wasn't a killer at that point. Yeah, we're just seeing Batman for the first time at a later end of his career. Now, when we talk about Robert Pattinson's Batman, we know he's in his second year. We know he's relatively fresh. But when you look at the trailer, he's clearly a very, very dark, angry Batman. He's clearly still very, very raw in his feelings about the death of his parents and wanting to take on this role of judge, jury, and executioner in Gotham. Probably my favourite shot from any of the trailers is where one of the bad guys says something along the lines of, "Who are you?" And he just lays into this thug to the point where, you know, that one shot drops the guy, he's out cold there. But Bruce continues to throw another 3, 4, 5, or 6 punches into this guy. And I feel like when you're doing that to someone that's already out, you're walking a line of unconscious and death. And I can't help but think, I know it's a movie. I know in movies people take an ungodly amount of punishment that's not realistic. But I feel like with the position that this version of Bruce is in, I don't think that him killing is too much of a stretch. Again, in the fandom trailer, he even says something along the lines of, "I don't care what happens to me." If he doesn't care what happens to himself, then he's probably in this dark, depressed state almost, right? So as long as he's getting the job done, as long as he's saving innocent people and preventing these crimes, would he really care about killing? I'm not so sure. Again, judge, jury, and executioner. If he's deeming these people need to face justice, vengeance, I don't think murder is much more of a stretch. Having said that, I hope that's not the case. As much as I love Ben Affleck as Batman, I prefer a version of Batman that just is after justice, not vengeance. Not just taking the pieces off the board, taking the criminals away. I would rather him put them away. Just as I'm sure Thomas Wayne, his father, would have done to the murderer in the alley. Yeah, I'm not a fan of murdering Bruce. But again, I can understand the reasons why Batfleck was a murderer. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying I kind of understand. It's a different version of Batman. So this early version of Bruce, I'm hoping, is still trying to stay on the right side of the line and follow justice, follow the law, and set a good example for the Gotham PD. Because we know that there's going to be some corruption amongst the GCPD, right? It's always the way. Gotham is Gotham. It's going to be corrupt. And I think that's even hinted at with the first riddle we got from the Riddler in the first trailer, when he says about turning a blind eye. I can't remember the quote exactly, but he says about turning a blind eye. My take from that is Batman turning a blind eye to the corruption and the lawbreakers within the GCPD. So yeah, hopefully this version of Bruce is trying to show them how it's done. He's being a detective. He's solving the crimes for them, and he's not murdering. He's putting them away. He's making the criminals face justice. Okay, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Let's see. Cast, story, Riddler, Penguin, Alfred, the relationship with Bruce, Batsuit, Batmobile, and Dirty Kill. Yeah, I talked about pretty much everything I want to talk about. Oh, I missed, cast-wise, I didn't talk about Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Big fan. Big fan. I love Jeffrey Wright in the Bond films as Felix Leiter. He's a great actor, and he's one of those characters that really... one of those actors that can really make you feel about the character he's playing. You know, you really feel for him, you really like them, you really care about them, and that's an appeal a, what's the word I'm looking for? That's a characteristic, I guess, that needs to be brought to Commissioner Gordon, because it's something Gary Oldman did fantastically. We really cared about Oldman's Gordon, and he will be well remembered as one of the great actors to ever play Commissioner Gordon. I'm hoping Jeffrey Wright will do the same. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything I want to talk about. I'm sure there's going to be more things in the full film that we'll not know is coming. Probably more villains, more characters, maybe Harvey Dent, something like that, that we'll get to see. Maybe a hint at the Joker, who knows, because we need another Joker, apparently. I wouldn't complain. I wouldn't complain. More Batman is good Batman to me. Okay, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this more casual discussion style of video. I was kind of sat here editing and writing a script for future videos, not just on this channel, but on the Lord of the Rings channel, The Broken Sword. Check it out if you haven't already. And I was watching the trailers and listening to a podcast while I was doing so, and I was just like, I haven't talked about the trailers. I haven't talked about my thoughts on this film. So before this channel gets too old and before we get too close to the release date, I just wanted to sit down in front of a camera and have my say. So I really, really hope you enjoyed your time here with me today. I have no idea how long this has gone on for. Maybe 20 minutes. I don't know. We'll see in the edit. But I hope you've all had a great day. I hope you're as excited as I am for the release of the Batman. We only have 2 months. 2 months. Less than that. 7 weeks. Can you believe it? The time has finally come. Okay, thank you all so much for watching. I apologize if this video was out of focus and distracting with music in the background. I did the best I can. Have a great day, guys. Don't forget to return to the Batcave for more Bat content. I'm very tired. I'm going now. Bye, guys.